Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We're going to work on a Mitchell 300 today. It's the later version of the reel. And actually, sometimes I actually see 300A on that, but this one just has the 300 on it. It's made in Taiwan, so it's one of the later editions of the reel. And this one came into the shop. The fellow says it's not spooling right. And of course, I got to remove the spool. And well, you can remove the spool and the axle and everything else in between. So something's obviously gone wrong there. And we'll just take this apart and we'll show you how to correct that. Otherwise, the main gear seems to be spinning the rotor. And let's go find out what's going on underneath there. We'll show you how to take this apart, how to clean it up, service it, and get it working again. So we're going to start by removing the handle. And that comes off in a clockwise manner. I'm just having a little bit of trouble getting it off, but looking at the kind of the old grease and dirt and debris and the like here, well, just seems like there's been some time between services, let's put it that way, huh? All right. Well, while I do this, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I want to thank the 20,000 folks that have already subscribed, each and every one of you. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And if you do subscribe, please hit the notification button. That'll tell you when I am posting new videos. I try to do that frequently, and you'll be able to make a determination as to which ones you want to watch. If you like the fishing reels, and if you like to see how they're serviced, if you like to see how they're made, if you want to understand a little bit more about the business, the channel is a good place for you to go there. The idea of this channel is it's called Second Chance Tackle, and the idea is to show you how to do it yourself. Well, this is kind of an interesting one. I'm just looking quickly. Of course, I know a little bit more about the reel. It needs a good cleaning, but this is the drive for the axle shaft, and well, apparently there's no stud on the back of the drive. There should be a stud right here that's causing that issue. So I'm going to just stop the video for a moment. I'm going to go grab another slide. We'll come back. We'll show you the complete take apart of this, how to service it, and how to get it going again. Okay, well, I've managed to locate one. Now this is off of a 300, but I don't think that there's a difference. I just kind of eyeballed these quickly. They seem to line up pattern-wise. And this is the stud I was referring to that you need to intersect with that axle shaft in order to make this work. So we're going to just assume for a moment that that's the one. This is an eyeball one. I haven't seen that before in terms of an issue. All right, this spool comes out. We're going to remove the two screws here. That's a little bit different than the base 300. The base 300 has a nut head screw on it as opposed to a Phillips head. So I don't know. Sometimes I wonder why these changes are made, but they are. Probably machine tools and the like when I moved it over to Taiwan. All right, I just brought all of these out. They're going to go into my parts tray. There's two small ones for that, and then we're going to clean this up. This is the slide. We'll clean that up. Overall, this reel is pretty clean inside. Kind of surprised. I haven't seen that failure before. We'll take that, and we'll take the new slide. We're going to put that in there. The old slide off to the side for a moment. And then we can come back up top here. I didn't check to make sure that the bail is functioning. Bail is working nicely. So we're just going to grab my Mitchell tool. And actually, I'm working on a Mitchell with a Mitchell tool. How do you like that? That's a 12mm nut. You need a deep socket to get into the rotor cup. And Mitchell makes a tool for that. So if you happen to find one, that's great. If you don't have one, don't rush out and buy one. Just use a deep socket. You can't get a flat box wrench in there. It's just not going to work. Pull the whole piece up to remove that assembly. And the first thing you want to do is a little bit of cleaning. What we're going to grab is a cotton swab. We're going to go underneath here to get the old dried greases out. That will slow the performance of a reel without question. Now this is pretty much the same whether your Mitchell reel was made early on or whether it was made in the later editions like this one that was made in Taiwan. The internals of this reel are pretty much the same. You will find differences in the way that the anti-reverse is set up. As I mentioned, there's some minor differences, a Phillips head screw versus a hex X-nut finish. For the most part, the reel is kind of set up the same way. There are some changes as well in the drive that drives the rotor in that, but overall, what I'm doing here can be applied to most Mitchell reels. Okay, so the case is clean. That's the first thing you want to do. And before you get crazy taking all kinds of pieces and parts off, go put some back on just so you don't lose them. So this is our slide. And what we want to do with the slide, we want to get grease right in that center point right there. We want to get it into the channel underneath. That's why it's important to go ahead and loosen, take this off, because you want to get it fully lubed up. Once you grease both sides, go back to your parts tray. I use a parts tray. You can use whatever you want to organize your pieces and parts that you take off the reel. But keep them organized so that when it's time to reinstall, you know where they are. And if you've watched my channel before, I always recommend taking pictures, because pictures give you reference points in terms of where the parts go in the event that you lose track. Sometimes, well, even with best intentions, I get in my shop, something happens, a phone rings, somebody's at the door, whatever it is that I got to go and answer, and the next thing you know, I kind of forget my place. Well, the pictures help me remember where that place is. All right, so that's the bottom end here. We're going to remove the baffle plate, and under the baffle plate, normally you will find a series of little washers. Those are shim washers installed by the plant so that they have the right height for your trip lever for your bail assembly. So the bottom end of this plate here, this little bend down part, is going to hit the side of this. It's going to release that lever on. What you want to do now is you want to clean the inside of the bowl. And you can test your thing. You always got to watch when you test, because you're going to get whacked with this. But test it by just kind of pushing back on the bail trip, and you can see that it's very good. You do not need to remove the bail wire unless the bail wire is not working. Simple squirt of some penetrating oil inside and working it in is fine. All that you're going to find under that cavity is a spring, and springs are they don't need the oils or the penetration. Now, if you got a slow bail and you're running into issues with it, then of course you want to take that off and go do some additional work with it. Maybe you dropped it in the sand and some sand got behind there, or what have you. All right, well, what we're doing now is we're taking a pick and we're going through the bottom gear on the rotor assembly. That's because we have old dried grease in here, and you don't want the dried grease in the reel. And it's kind of like road bumps. If you don't get rid of the dried grease, it's just going to kind of bump along rather than be a smooth operator. So get all of that out of there. And I keep a variety of picks right on my bench, and I use them pretty much every reel. All right, that's been cleaned up. We go ahead and put a little bit of grease onto that. I'm using fishing reel grease, and I recommend that that's the only grease that you use. The grease that I use is Penn Precision Reel Grease, but any manufacturer's reel grease is okay by me. All right, we should have these two should fit over the shaft here. They go between the bottom of the base of this and the rotor, and your rotor goes on. Keep the sequence of those washers. Now, if you're changing the baffle plate, or if you're changing the head on the reel, you may need to adjust the level of these shim washers. Because that kind of sets the tone for how the baffle plate aligns with that trip lever. And we did a trip before and everything was working good. Notice on your baffle plate that there's kind of a tooth hanging out right here. It's not a complete inner circle. Find the slot in your case and align those two and push that down. And you can grab your rotor nut. You're going to want to start this by hand. You want to make sure that you have this threading properly. If it doesn't thread properly, you risk cross-stripping either the nut or the shaft. And in either case, that's damage is pretty much unrepairable. So make sure that you do that properly. Then I'm going to grab my wrench here, tighten it down, give it a spin. It spins nicely. And we're going to just bring that up. And it's going to trip this way, so we'll turn it this way to make sure that it trips, and it does. Now, this bail's been bent pretty badly. You can see how it's not not a nice arc. So I'm just going to come over to the side of my bench and push on the one side of it. Chances are what happened with this bail is that somebody stepped on it. And now we've got it in a more traditional sense. And all I did was I took that to the side of my bench, which is about an 1.5 inch thick piece of wood. Just put pressure on it to kind of push this side over to kind of repair what it was. Of course, it's important now that it trips, because you could have knocked that out of sequence. All right, well, that's all good. Think about what's just happened here. We actually started this thing because the axle shaft here was not working. Let's get that axle shaft out of there. Push down on the button for the spool. That'll pull the axle shaft out. We'll clean up that axle shaft next. Feel the axle shaft. If there's any burrs or roughness or dried grease on there, get it off of there before you start again. Only a light cut of grease on this. That's probably too much anyway, because it will just push off when you go through the pinion gear. Let's go ahead and bring that in, flat side facing you. Bring it down. And now that new piece that we got, the replacement piece, has the stud on it right there. That's going to be the slide for this. You want to get grease onto this side of the face of the slide, and we want to get it in the tracks where the oscillation gear is going to work. Go ahead and get that in. And because it's a different model, I want to just make sure that it slides up and down easily, and it does. So I'm pretty satisfied there that that's the correct piece. Now we want that oscillation gear. Check all of the teeth, make sure they're nice and clean, that there's no chips or breaks or anything. It becomes important on this reel because we don't know what the history is there. When that piece broke off, where did it go? Very curious. I didn't see it come out of the case. Maybe we'll find it on the other side of the reel here. All right, there's 3 little wings below here. I find that if you put the oscillation gear or slide like that, take the 3 and put it at the base, and you turn that, it's going to work. Just as a word of caution, if you don't do it that way, you're not going to have a complete cycle up and down. So make sure as you're reassembling your reel that you have the complete rotation of that slide before you go any further. Here's the other side of the reel now. We have a gear that's going to drive off the main gear that will turn your rotor. We have your main gear, and we have the anti-reverse dog. So if you're working on one of these, that's the setup. When you open up your case, this one goes below, this one goes above. So just in case you were wondering how that kind of reports in, that's how it does that. Well, we took the handle off. We should be able to move all of this right up and out. And this is an old style, but it's on a newer reel, interestingly enough. This is an anti-reverse dog that works with fingers that provide tension to operate that anti-reverse dog. So if you're kind of looking for a spring there is no spring in this one. There is a spring that holds the anti-reverse override in place, but there's no spring for the actual operation of this. we just took that off, and if you didn't take a picture and you were wondering, it's probably real easy to put it on backwards. So make sure you note when you're going to do this that the teeth go to the left-hand side of that main gear. And then you just kind of gingerly work it so that it spreads the two, and that you have that. The anti-reverse dog and the friction point do not get grease. It's friction here, and grease, well, that's kind of reduces friction. Check your teeth on your main gear. I was kind of doing that, but didn't tell you. Check your teeth on the inner gear. Make sure they're clean, free of debris and the like. Get a good amount of grease on both, and get grease on the back shaft here before you go to reinstall. This case is pretty clean. We're just going to wipe up a little bit on the side here. Come on down off the top. And we also want to do a cleanup on the back gear here. Again, this is the one that's going to take the power from the main gear and drive the rotor with it. Looks like we need a little bit more here. I don't know what grease this is, but it's kind of telling me when the last time it was serviced because it's very dry. So between the outside of the case and the old grease on this, kind of get an idea. It's been a while since it's been serviced. Still don't know why that point broke off there, but it did. And I use a variety of scrapers. Here's another example of that. And this here has got some old grease in it, so I'm going to take a brush. I'm going to brush the old grease out of that gear, just to make sure everything's clean. Give it an inspection, make sure that all of the teeth are in good condition. They are. So we're going to re-lube now. Re-lube the back, and re-lube the teeth that are going to intersect with that rotor cup that we just installed. I use an artist's brush for the grease. Before I go any further, that case needs to be cleaned, and this is the best time to clean that. I'm going to take a little kitchen scrubby pad that I cut the corner off of, rod and reel cleaner, and just a little bit of effort here will get all that old dried grease out of the way. This reel is in very nice condition, except that it didn't work. I don't know, again, I haven't seen that failure point before. It's a good thing that I have some spare Mitchell parts laying around that I was able to go get it to give this reel a second chance. All right, the main gear comes in. You'll notice there's a little peg right over here, stud, and the hole in that anti-reverse dog. So that's what you want to line for or aim for as you're going about reinstalling this. Work the main gear in, find that peg, and now we have the opportunity to show you how this works. You're going to spin your main gear as you're driving. It's fine. When you go to back pedal, it's going to pull those teeth in. Again, if you put this in upside down, it's over here. You're never going to see the stopping point. We'll take our secondary gear. That's going to go up top here. One more gear we have before we put the plate back on. This is the transfer gear. This is the one that's going to drive the slide for the rotor. Remember that little one we put in that we showed you. So that one goes below here. And then this reel has a water seal. The earlier 300s do not have the water seal. So bring that over the top and under. And there's a ridge on the water seal. Make sure that the ridge is pointing out. All right, to install then, just simply line them up, merge them. I'll hold the case just to make sure that we've got this down. Seems like we do. I left one screw in the case. That's something you probably don't want to do. There's two more screws here. let's get those on. So if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, maybe you're working on one, you're a little stuck, maybe you just went through this with the 300 and you couldn't get the slide to work properly because that idler or slide gear there wasn't working properly or wasn't aligned properly, and maybe you know that now. Well, that seems to work pretty nice. We got the override set. All right, handle on. This is one of those annoying things with the Taiwanese made one. This thing is got a plastic cap here, and so many times that darn plastic cap just kind of wears out. The other ones, you'll know, you had the teardrop caps, and the other ones that just, they were either pull up or screw up. All right, give that a turn. That's working nicely, and look at that, the axle shaft is actually going up and down, which is what the problem was. All right, one more thing we'll do, we'll look at the spool here. I get this question a lot. This is a little bit of a, well, whoever did this had this one upside down. You have a Teflon washer here that acts as your drag washer. We're going to push through on this now because there's a washer under here as well. And you just want to make sure that those washers are in good condition. That's your other drag washer. So we have a drag washer, we have a little pressure plate. Those go on. You have the this little thing here's going to, the spring is going to hit this, make a click when you're backpedaling your reel. So put that back on, you can hear that now. We have a Teflon washer up top. We have our clamp down. That's going to keep tension on it. Before I go put that cap on, let's go ahead and grab that little kitchen scrubby again, run it through the channel there. Try and get that. Now this reel has sun damage on it, UV damage on the spool. It's a plastic spool, so you will get that. This one conveniently has the little hole in the spool so you can tie off your line when you are not using the reel, so it doesn't kind of spread all over the place. And we'll just go ahead and we'll just mop up the spool. So again, if you're enjoying this kind of video, if you'd like to see more of these, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification button, and you'll be able to see all kinds. So this one is a classic spinning reel. Next one may be a modern day low-profile bait caster, maybe an ocean going reel, and maybe anything in between there. So I would encourage you to go ahead and do that subscription and hit that notification button. It's always appreciated. There you go. So we didn't mop up this side, but this side didn't have the grease on it. The other side did. I would call that overall pretty nice. Let's give it a go. Nice spinning reel. One of the things nice about this one is with that finger dog on as the anti-reverse, you don't get the click, click, click that you get from some of the other ones that have that constant dog. All right, test the bail, make sure that fires. This one's ready to go fishing again. It's going to have a second chance. So there you go. All right, so what did we learn? We learned that there are mechanical failures in reels. This one had a pin that broke off. That stopped the oscillation from working, enabled us to pull the whole darn thing right out. Kind of amazing. If you were fighting a fish, that thing would probably be on the bottom of a lake by now. So this one was a mechanical failure. The reel is nicely done. Pretty much shares all of the components with the earlier versions of the 300s, which were made in France. This one was made in Taiwan. And again, real quick tell-all on terms of these reels. If you find a Mitchell 300 with one of these plastic adjusters on the back end of the handle, it's almost assuredly made in Taiwan, unless somebody took this handle and put it on an older version of a Mitchell when their old handle failed. So that's kind of it. The other one would be the red stripe on the ring and the case seal that is on this reel. So there you go. To all of our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do. To everybody, please have a great day. I wish you best fishing in tight lines. Please stay healthy and well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.